It's been a minute since we put together a system for you, so let's get building. Not only are we going to be building a HiFi system with a total system price of less than $2,300 today, the best part is you don't even need every piece to achieve audio nirvana. So tweak a little here, tweak a little there, and you can get this system down to around $1,400. So let's meet the contenders. For power, we're going to be using the Cambridge Audio AXA25, which is a simple but effective 25 watt per channel stereo integrated amp that has 4 analog inputs, an aux jack, balance, and, wait for it, tone controls. It doesn't have a built-in phono preamp, a DAC, or even a remote, but stick with me because there's a workaround. You know that I enjoy modern convenience and streaming music in my HiFi gear, so we're going to get our stream on using the AXN10 from Cambridge Audio. The AXN10 is the full-width version of the MXN10. Since there are no performance differences between the two pieces, we went with the AXN to match the AXA25. Now, if you don't care about symmetry, save yourself the $100 and go with the smaller MXN10. The AXN10 gives you access to all of the major streaming services like Spotify and Tidal through Cambridge Audio's Stream Magic app, which is now in its 4th generation. The AXN is not a DAC. Yes, it has an ESS Saber DAC inside that tackles its internal digital to analog conversion, but while you can connect through Ethernet, Wi-Fi, USB stick, or Bluetooth, it cannot be used as a standalone DAC between, say, your TV and the AXA25. I find this limiting at this price, but it's not uncommon. Still, the AXN and MXN are simple and effective ways to bring modern music convenience to your more analog and vintage hi-fi gear. The hotkeys now, they make accessing your favorite stations and streaming services a button push away. Very similar to what we just saw in Name and Bang & Olufsen products, only you're spending hundreds, not thousands, for the pleasure. Now, I typically avoid the oversaturated topic of DACs. Every day, a new one pops up on Amazon ready to become the
next DAC you gotta have.
When the reality is, most of the time, it's just like the last one. But in this setup, the Z8 allowed me to connect our TV to our simple 2-channel setup and even allows me to remotely control the all-manual AXA25's volume because I can use Eversolo's preamp function, which is a neat little life hack. I'm going to save the rest of my thoughts on the Z8 for that review. For speakers, we're relying on our trusty Rebel M16 bookshelves. They sound stupid good for their sub $350 per speaker sale price. For those who have forgotten that review, the M16, it's a 2-way rear-ported speaker that uses a 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter mated to a 6.5-inch aluminum cone woofer that plays down to around 55 hertz. Now, they're 86 dB sensitive with a 6 ohm impedance, which isn't super efficient, but surprisingly, they pair real well with the AXA25, despite the Cambridge having only 25 watts at its disposal. So, once again, specs don't tell the whole story. Now, typically, when it comes to more budget-friendly gear, we often have to manage our expectations, and yet, all of the components here, they punch a class or two above. The Cambridge gear has clearly been built with a strict budget in mind, but you still benefit from the brand's eye for design, which results in products that look as good as their more expensive offerings. Now, the Eversolo DAC preamp is a whole other story. For its asking price, I'm not going to sit here and suggest that I have no idea how they're doing it. But there are a lot of DACs on the market right now that don't seem nearly as competently built or that function as well as the Z8, even though those DACs cost more. Is the Z8 a bargain? Well, we're going to have to wait and see. Nevertheless, its build quality and flexibility are just 2 of the reasons why I've kept it past its return date. As for the Revels, still not a fan of that gloss finish, but for $700, they continue to be hard to fault. And I gotta say, this rig sounds way better than it has any right to. I A/B'd this exact setup opposite the $27,000 Name system we just reviewed, and while the Name ultimately won in the end, I was constantly impressed by my Franken rig. It costs only a little bit more than one of Name's own power cords.
You serious?
The overall sound of this system, be it listening to streaming music or watching movies, albeit in stereo, was focused, mildly forward, and dynamic, but never fatiguing. And the bass was punchy. Now, I'm not saying it was subwoofer proof, but there was enough of a bump in the Revel's lower registers that the speakers had a greater sensation of weight and low-end presence than I expected given their specs. Regardless of whether I was listening to, say, a Perfect Circle or Middle Kids, the bass was more than adequate for 90% of my listening. My hunch tells me that those of you with smaller to medium-sized rooms can be just fine with a pair of M16s on their own. And like I said earlier, for less efficient speakers, the AXA25 had zero issues driving the Revels to insane volumes in our room. This combo's mid-range definitely leans towards the neutral or cool side of the spectrum. There isn't a great deal of editorializing, though I would stop short of calling this combo clinical or sterile. Vocalists had a great presence and good detail. This was especially true when listening with the Z8, but some instruments, for example, Luna's piano, they sounded more like a livelier or leaner Yamaha than, say, a slightly darker, richer Steinway. Nitpicking for sure, but all in all, at least when it comes to the system's mid-range, there is an awful lot to like here. The treble at high volumes could take on a bit of grain or edge, but I didn't really hit that point until I was listening at volumes reaching into just the mid-90s. Anything below that, this setup has loads of detail without sounding too bright. At lower volumes, this system is actually really engaging because of that top-end prowess. As for the soundstage and dynamics, the soundstage is good. It's best between the speakers for sure, with a very solid center image and respectable separation between instruments and performers. Now, is it possible to experience a better soundstage? Sure, but you are going to pay more for it. Dynamics, on the other hand, really good, even exciting, especially when you turn things up. That said, I think the AXA25 compresses dynamics a bit, lacking a level or two of sonic contrast as you turn things up or as the music builds. So it more or less kind of jolts from quiet to loud rather than, builds. And the sensitive volume knob on the AXA25 makes it really hard to get the volume just right. Now, adding the Z8 and its remote will let you fine-tune the volume more easily from your listening chair. Now, as good and as much fun as I believe this setup to be, I think it can actually be better. In fact, I already know how to improve it. See, this is why you need to watch the whole video, because I bet you thought we were done and then it was time to throw to Kristi and call it a day. Nope. As much as I like the AXA25, it is definitely the weakest link. If you're okay with an all-digital rig, one that relies on high-res audio and streaming, I would ditch the extra analog inputs and redundancy of the AXA25 and replace it instead with Emotiva's Bass-X A2. Stick with the Eversolo Z8 and go with the smaller Cambridge Audio MXN10 streamer, and you won't be sacrificing anything. Going this route improves performance thanks to the more powerful Emotiva, plus switching to the less expensive MXN10 absorbs some of the cost of the Emotiva amp, making the change more or less a wash. But if you still want to leave your analog audio options open, you could ditch both the Eversolo and the AXA25 and just go with an AXR100 plus an AXN10. The AXR100 has a built-in DAC, a moving magnet phono preamp, Bluetooth, not to mention 100 watts per channel, all for $599. Add in a pair of Revels and you are donezo for under $1,400. The AXR100 with its built-in DAC will result in a more full-bodied sound compared to the AXA25, but it will also seem a little bit more polite and rolled off at the extremes compared to the Eversolo Emotiva combo, which is just going to sniff out detail like it's...
No, don't eat that.
Which sound is ultimately right? Well, that's for you to decide. I gotta say, I had a blast living with this more affordable setup. It was definitely a great palate cleanser coming off the super premium name gear and a great reminder that the grass isn't always greener. While it can be fun to lust after costlier components, it only takes an experience like this one to remind oneself of what is truly important. So if you value music and the joy of listening for less than $2,000 all in, any of the system combos outlined in this video, they're gonna put a smile on your face while keeping those very valuable commas right in your bank account. All right, so that's finally enough out of me, and now it is time to throw to Kristi. So what did you think?
Well, you know how much I like the Cambridge AX line, so this one was a fun one for me.
Okay.
I really like the sound of the AXA25.
Yeah.
And I love the Z8 workaround you found with the remote.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think I'd probably end up going with the Emotiva Eversolo combination.
Okay.
Just because I think that the Emotiva is probably going to serve you well longer term if you ever change your speakers.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a very difficult decision for me because the Cambridge gear just looks so good together.
It does. It really does.
And that kind of stuff matters to me. But anyway, there's something that you brought up at the close of your review that I kind of want to talk about.
Okay.
This has kind of been eating away at my brain a little bit the past few weeks. and don't be worried or anything, but
Okay.
it's just this notion that, you know, after lusting after costlier products can help you help remind you of what's truly important. And don't get me wrong, like, I totally understand where you are coming from.
Okay.
At the end of your review. I mean, and God knows we have received similar comments
Right.
on the name video.
Right.
But I guess that's just kind of the issue, that essentially it seems more and more that we, and this is kind of the royal we,
Okay.
are tying the value of music and listening to some arbitrary dollar amount. You know, whether that's 27 grand or two, it just feels like it's always one side against the other, where the high-end group looks down on the people with the less expensive gear, and the cheap audio fans vilify anyone who even looks at something that retails for more than $500.
Yeah.
And you know, the saddest part is that it's not just the consumers of the hobby that do this, but the brands that sell to them as well that are just as guilty. And I don't know. I just kind of wonder if we're ever going to reach a point where we can, you know,
We can all get along.
just be happy if someone else is happy with what they have or what they've chosen to spend.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like there isn't more than one way to get there, right?
Sure.
You know?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that, to be honest with you. That was a pretty, and I 100% agree with you. I do. I don't have an explanation other than it's just human nature, probably. But aside from that, like, do you have to spend gobs of money to enjoy yourself? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would say beyond a shadow of a doubt that my enjoyment of the music that I like to listen to was not any better or worse with this Cambridge rig or the name rig. Not to say that it didn't sound better at times with the name rig or any other rig that I've put together. Having a Leica doesn't make you a better photographer. But shooting on a Leica is a decidedly different experience than, say, shooting on a Lumix or a Canon. It really is. It's just going to come down to what you want for yourself. And the only person who has to be okay with that is the person making the decision. It's you. It's you. It's the individual. And so we really shouldn't judge other people's decisions, not only in hi-fi, just in any facet of life. And I understand that that's easier said than done, but that's really what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I just sometimes you see this happening over and over again, and these situations playing out in the comments, whether it's here or on some other channel or on some forum in the deep dark web. It's just I just really wish we could focus more on what's important, what is valuable to you,
right?
You know, and let that be enough.
Yep.
And it shouldn't have anything to do with the price tag, at least as far as how it affects our pleasure or others' ability to enjoy what they have. You know, we've had plenty of experiences with very, very expensive gear that have been that have resulted in moments we will never forget.
Correct.
But we've also had similar experiences with the more affordable options. And my wish is for people to just kind of relax a little bit and stop feeling like you need to be on one side of the fence or another.
Yeah. I got nothing to add to that.
Yeah, me neither.
They're all really good points. And there's something that people should take with them, not only through this hobby, but just in life. The truth of the matter is that both sides need to figure it out. And this comes from the manufacturers as well, because the hobby is shrinking and both sides need to be healthy for it to survive. And if we continue to bicker and fight and argue and say my way is better than your way and vice versa, blah, 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 there's not going to be anything to talk about. Everybody's going to exhaust everybody. And the people that will be coming up behind us are going to look at all of this and go, oh my God, this is so not worth it, and just move on.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a really sad day. And if you've got your head in the sand saying that that's never going to happen, it is happening. It is. On that note, anything else?
No?
All right, guys. Well, that's it. That's the video. What did you guys think? How did we do? What do you think of this setup? Or what would you change in it, but keeping the price kind of relatively within the ballpark of where we did? I want to know. Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead, ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out, because apparently YouTube ain't notifying anybody. So ring that bell, turn your notifications on, and be in the know. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, know that that's a great way that you've continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And both of us thank you all very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.